This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines, plus those that make you go,
Welcome back onto the program. This is Rania Saadi with Ahmed Dawood, and we are missing our co-host. He will be back in no time, hopefully.
Yes.
This hour we will be discussing the latest COVID-19 updates from the UAE and around the world. The UAE has been witnessing a spike in cases. We are coming close to hitting 100,000 total coronavirus cases in the nation. So we will discuss how the UAE has been handling the current crisis and the latest measures that has been taken here in the UAE. We will also be talking about how the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been handling the situation of Umrah with the current COVID-19 situation. Umrah is now being performed after a 7-month suspension of the pilgrimage because of the coronavirus pandemic. So now this suspension has been lifted on Saturday. This is the longest period we have been away from the Holy Mosque. So we will talk about the first batch, let's say, of pilgrims that have entered the Grand Mosque and have started performing Umrah.
That's right, Rania. Plus, we're gonna head over to the United Kingdom here to talk about the state of immigration in the country, and more and more looking at statements from the Interior Minister. It's looking like they're taking a hardline stance against asylum seekers and would-be immigrants, and we're going to talk about how they intend on changing and overhauling the immigration system in the country, in the United Kingdom. So stay tuned for that discussion. Plus, today is World Teachers Day, and it is being celebrated in Sharjah. So we're going to get into the history of it, the significance, everything you need to know about this day and how it's being celebrated here in the Emirate. And stay tuned for those stories. Text us at 4215. The text lines are open. We're also live on YouTube at Pulse 95 Radio. Stay tuned.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
Everybody, welcome back to the program. And we've got an update here on the state of COVID-19 in the United Arab Emirates. The latest numbers and what the government officials have commented as well on what measures they're taking to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So let's start here with the latest numbers. Another 1,041 people have tested positive for the coronavirus in the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah. This is sad news, yeah.
It is indeed, and it's pushed the grand total of infections in the country to 98,801, according to the Ministry of Health and Prevention. They said no new deaths from the novel coronavirus have been reported, leaving the United Arab Emirates' death toll at 426. They also announced the recovery of 1,001 new cases after receiving the necessary treatment, which takes that number to over 88,000 total patients. But yes, yet again, we're seeing the number go over that number 1,000.
We are getting close to 100,000 total coronavirus cases in the nation, so this is definitely alarming. But right now, as we speak, the number of active cases stands at 10,252. The country has conducted more than 10.1 million tests since the outbreak started. So rising case figures also have prompted a campaign to enforce safety measures across the country as well. But yeah, concerns have been raised over social gatherings at home and in public venues. Authorities have been taking tough action in recent weeks. We've been witnessing that where a lot of fines have been issued and a lot of businesses have been closed as well for breaching regulations designed to protect the public health. Just on Sunday, yesterday, Dubai has fined 13 sports establishments and shops for flouting COVID-19 rules. Inspectors also warned another 19 at the weekend to ensure compliance with guidelines. Breaches included not wearing masks, failing to keep enough space, social distancing, and also not installing distancing stickers. Some of the shopping centers and markets were in Umrah Mall area, Al Muraqabat, and many other areas in the neighboring emirate as well. Now, inspections found that 656 shops and commercial establishments complied with the precaution measures, which is very good. But authorities have been clamping down on businesses and people breaking rules designed to curb the spread of COVID-19 amid this rise in cases. So officials are calling on the public to kind of renew their commitment to the fight against COVID-19 by adhering to safety measures for your health and other people's health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's worth noting as well that the United Arab Emirates' National Emergency Crisis Authorities have developed, or Crisis Disaster Management Authority have formed 7 inspection teams, one based in each emirate, to further clamp down on any violations of COVID-19 precautions, particularly those taking place in establishments, commercial ones at that, gyms, restaurants, and places that might host larger gatherings and parties, for instance. Even yachts, we've seen those being cracked down on as people had been flouting COVID-19 precautions in those areas. For the public, the general advice by UAE authorities is to regularly and thoroughly clean your hands and wash them with soap and water, or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Try to maintain at least 2-meter distance as well between you and other people as much as you possibly can, and stay away from crowded places. Because where people come together in crowds, you're more likely to come to close contact with someone who has COVID-19, which could manifest itself in asymptomatic people, meaning people don't have to be coughing or sneezing to have COVID-19 as well. One big piece of advice to the public as well, given by doctors here in the UAE, is to avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, because your hands touch many surfaces and can pick up viruses and droplets containing COVID-19. And once you transfer your hands to your eyes or rub your nose, rub your mouth, that's how the virus can enter your body and infect you. So these are some of the guidelines given by the authorities to try and stay safe during this time.
Another confusion that we encounter is how do you differentiate between COVID-19 and influenza? Both have a similar manifestation. So how do you differentiate between the two? Most importantly, if you have symptoms, when should you visit a doctor to get yourself checked in order to rule out a coronavirus infection? Now, according to a doctor here in the UAE, both cases, he's saying, both cause respiratory illness, from asymptomatic to mild to a severe condition. Both are transmitted by contact, droplets and fomites too. But the main differentiation factor is the spread of transmission. Now, flu has a shorter mean incubation period from when you catch the virus to the illness being manifested. For example, the serial interval, or the time taken for the virus to be transmitted from one person to another, is 3 days for influenza. While for COVID-19, it's 5 to 6 days. This means the flu virus travels faster.
Yeah.
Now, they also added, or the doctor also added, that the number of secondary infections generated from one infected patient to another is 2 to 2.5 for the COVID-19 virus, which is higher than that of the flu. The doctor also said that another critical difference between the two is that while children are important drivers for influenza, in case of COVID-19, children are usually infected from adults. So mortality rate for COVID-19 also for COVID-19 patients is higher than that of flu, especially seasonal influenza.
Yeah, and one thing worth noting, especially as we head into the flu season, is to follow good respiratory hygiene.
Right.
So if you're coughing, you're sneezing, do it into your elbow. Or cough into or sneeze into a tissue paper as well, because by following good respiratory hygiene, you protect people around you from any type of virus, whether it's the cold, the flu, or COVID-19. And you can never really know whether or not you have COVID-19 unless you're tested.
Exactly.
So you have to practice those precautions.
Exactly. Now, another differentiating factor between COVID-19 and the flu is that the headache and body ache are stronger, obviously, in the COVID-19 infections.
Yeah.
So, coming back to the main point here, testing. It's necessary to completely rule out, let's just say, COVID-19. Repeated testing. We have to follow that.
Especially if you have any of the signs, if you have fever, cough, or difficulty breathing, just seek medical attention. call the local health authorities. They have the most up-to-date information on the situation here in the country, in your area as well, and they'll give you advice on how to stay home, self-isolate should you have any minor symptoms, or whether you need immediate medical care in any of the facilities here in the country. So keep up to date with the latest information. Follow the news stories as well. Follow the Morning Majlis as we relay what the UAE government is doing about COVID-19. And if you have any questions to us, our text lines are open at 4215.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Oh, holy day. Saudi Arabia partially resumed the year-round Umrah pilgrimage, with extensive health precautions adopted after a 7-month coronavirus hiatus or suspension. Now, yesterday, thousands of worshippers entered the Grand Mosque in the holy city of Mecca in batches to perform the ritual of circling the sacred Kaaba. Now, it is being revived in 3 different phases, with Saudi Hajj Minister Mohammed Bintan saying that 6,000 pilgrims per day would be allowed in the first stage to perform the Umrah meticulously and within a specified period of time. Now, under the second stage, which starts from October 18th, the number of Umrah pilgrims will be increased to 15,000 per day. Visitors from abroad will be permitted in the third stage from November 1st, when the capacity will be raised to 20,000 people per day. Now, a maximum of 40,000 people, including other worshippers, will be allowed to perform prayers at the mosque in the second stage, and 60,000 people will be allowed to pray at the mosque in the third stage, and that is according to the Interior Ministry. But there has been a lot of precautionary measures to be followed, because in the end, of course, the safety, comfort, and health of the pilgrims is a priority for the kingdom. The Grand Mosque is to be sterilized before and after each group of worshippers. Each group of 20 to 25 pilgrims are to be accompanied by a health worker, and medical teams will be on the ground in case of any emergency. Also, thermal sensors have been installed to measure the body temperatures of the pilgrims as well.
Yeah, and that is key, as Umrah and Hajj are places where people tend to gather in close proximity to one another, but the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is undertaking all the necessary measures to ensure their safety, including the gradual reopening of Umrah and slowly increasing the number of pilgrims permitted to be within this space. And looking at the footage here, Umrah pilgrims circled the sacred Kaaba, which if you're non-Muslim, it's a cubic structure inside Mecca's Grand Mosque, towards which Muslims around the world pray. And the pilgrims were socially distanced from one another as well. This also comes, the resumption of Umrah, in response to the aspirations of Muslims home and abroad, according to Saudi's Ministry of Hajj and Umrah, and comes after the kingdom organized the smallest Hajj in modern history back in July, with only up to 10,000 Muslims allowed to take part in total. But health authorities said that at the time, no COVID-19 cases were reported at the holy sites during the Hajj, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam and a must for able-bodied Muslims to do at least once in their lifetime.
I wish I can do it. I can't wait for November 1st. Hopefully I'll get a chance to go and do my Umrah pilgrimage. But yeah, this has been going on. This is a major let's say comeback.
Yeah.
A very, very happy one, because Saudi Arabia closed all mosques and suspended Umrah pilgrims ever since March because of the coronavirus spread and how it really spread through the kingdom. Authorities decided to allow Hajj pilgrims to be a pilgrimage to be held in July, but with, of course, severely reduced numbers, and only residents of the kingdom were allowed to participate as borders remained closed to prevent the spread of the virus. But the restrictions were keenly felt by Mecca residents, who were accustomed to being able to pray at the holy mosque at any time, and also missed the throngs of Hajj and Umrah pilgrims that usually fill the city's streets. So we have statements coming out, like very happy people from one Saudi Arabia resident saying, "I'm very glad. I can't express what I'm feeling. It's like a state of inner peace. I'm used to going to the Holy Mosque every week, and it was quite hard not being able to visit the last few months, especially as I live just 10 minutes away." So very expressions of happiness over there. Hopefully we'll get a chance of our own to express this happiness one day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And hopefully someday as well, as Hajj and Umrah are important to Muslims. Umrah itself as well is a show of strengthening your faith and ensuring a more complete Hajj experience for Muslims as well. So we'll continue to follow this development. The Saudi authorities, they've had a major, tall task ahead of them, and they've been conducting it smoothly so far, as organizing something as big as this is a major logistical challenge, with crowds possibly cramming into smaller spaces. But they've done a great job of it so far, and we'll continue to follow this development on the program. Stay tuned to Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
We're talking Britain this segment, as Home Secretary, Interior Minister of Britain, Priti Patel, has been quite vocal as well about the policy that they intend on enacting with regards to immigration in the country. She said that in the United Kingdom, the asylum system is fundamentally broken, and she said she wants to make it, quote, firm and fair. Those remarks came during the Conservative Party conference, and she promised to introduce legislation next year pledging to, quote, overhaul a system. And she said it will be the biggest change in decades as well.
Yeah, she has reportedly been considering a wide range of options in recent months to curb the number of people trying to enter the UK illegally, including sending people to an island in the Atlantic for processing. Now, this suggestion was said to have come from former Australian Prime Minister, the current UK trade advisor, Tony Abbott. Patel also said that the current asylum system was broken and that she would bring forward legislation to change it next year. She said, after decades of inaction by successive governments, we will address the moral, legal, and practical problems with the asylum system, because what exists now is neither firm nor fair. Right now, the most vulnerable are stuck in this in this broken system with over 40,000 other people. Almost half of these claims take a year or more to reach a decision.
Yeah, and this is pretty much causing a storm, you could say, a political storm in the United Kingdom, with two sides with their very different ideas on how to manage this as well. Patel herself has reportedly been on the record considering a proposal to send asylum seekers to two Atlantic islands more than 4,000 miles away. And since taking office in 2019 as the first woman of color to hold the post, Britain's policies on immigration have hardened to a divisive effect. Her opposition counterpart, Nick Thomas-Symonds, said the government was, quote, lurching from one inhumane and impractical idea to another. He said, quote, the idea of sending people to Ascension Island, creating waves in the English Channel to wash boats back, and buying ferries and oil rigs to process asylum shows the government has lost control and all sense of compassion. The practicality of Patel's proposals were also widely mocked in parts of the British press. The Guardian newspaper, for instance, derided the Home Office for, quote, being clueless and dismissed the ideas as, quote, stupid and ill-developed. Regardless, those statements certainly clearly signal that the UK's government intends on taking a hardline stance towards immigration and asylum seekers in the country.
Hardline stance indeed, she said. Reform the system, prosecute the criminals, protect the vulnerable. That is what a firm but fair asylum system would look like, and that is what I intend to deliver. She also acknowledged that such an overhaul will take time, and also pledged to accelerate the government's response to illegal migration in the meantime. She also recognized that the plans would provoke criticism and controversy. She actually made some funny remarks And she said, no doubt those who are well rehearsed in how to play and profit from the broken system will lecture us on their grand theories about human rights. If at times it means being unpopular on Twitter, I will bear it. If at times it means Tony Blair's spin doctor mocking my accent, so be it. So she was being funny about the situation as well.
Well, it is pretty interesting here. We'll continue to follow the situation here, the UK immigration system overhaul, how it is set to change, and in what way it would benefit whether the United Kingdom's government or the people involved. But it is a major issue in the United Kingdom. Low-skilled immigrants have a steady presence in the United Kingdom, and they've been doing some very important work, including the social care sector, like looking after the elderly. A lot of hospitality work is also being done by immigrants, particularly in restaurants as well, and other establishments. So a lot of people have been looking for a pathway in, and businesses have been unhappy with what Priti Patel has been saying with regards to immigration because they rely on those workers for their businesses. So we're going to have to see how this goes. The British government says all of these plans will be ready by January 2021. They said this would give businesses some time to prepare, but whether that is likely to happen or not, we'll have to see and keep tuned to that story.
Yeah, despite the government previously promised to make the route from France to England unviable, but more than 6,000 migrants have arrived in the UK on small boats so far just this year, and this is according to figures. So we're just going to have to wait and see how this whole firm but fair plan works out.
Absolutely. And stay tuned to the Morning Majlis. We've got more stories coming up next. We're going to be talking about World Teacher Day, what it means, its history, its significance, and how Sharjah is celebrating. Stay tuned.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Yes, it's the Morning Majlis, and it's October 5th, and we are celebrating a very important day. It is World Teacher Day, or International Teachers Day, in other words. And we celebrate this every year on this day. World Teachers Day commemorates the anniversary of the adoption of the 1966 ILO UNESCO recommendation concerning the status of teachers, with the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goal 4 on education, and also the dedicated target. Now, this is a very important day. I remember I feel that teachers are the most influential characters that shape our personalities. Before our parents, before our sisters and brothers, before our friends, ever since we were, let's just say, we're like 5 or 4, and we see teachers and we encounter teachers, we come across our teachers, we get influenced by them. We see them more than our families. From such a young age. I remember I had a very special teacher. She was my private tutor when I was maybe 6 years old. Before I went to school, actually. I had a private tutor because I had a special situation when I was at that age. And I remember I used to just watch her carefully, watch every single detail. Watch, like, just kind of mimic her, imitate her. Whenever she left, like, I would understand everything she would teach me. The minute she gets up and leaves, because she would come to my house, obviously, I would just go in the mirror and I would imitate the way she talks. I would imitate the way, I would like mimic the way she sits. I also observe the way she drinks the coffee. Like, I try to drink the coffee like her. So she was so impactful. And I was...
How old were you?
I was 6 or 7, something like that. Yeah. So I still remember her. She's the only teacher that I remember her that I remember her name, because she was so influential to me. She taught me a lot of things. I was pushed back from going to school, so she was the one that actually taught me the basics. So she was very influential. And on this day, I want to say to Miss Manal, her name is Miss Manal. She probably doesn't even know that I exist, but I know she does. really, if knowledge is the light, then you are this guiding star that gave me this light. And on this day, I want to wish Miss Manal and all the teachers out there a very, very happy Teachers Day.
Yeah, it's incredibly sweet, and it's really important here how you showed that just how much impact they have on our lives, even when we're not as consciously aware of it as you are. Because for me personally, that's what I get. I go through life sometimes, and every now and then I think of something that they had taught me at some point in time, some instruction they gave me, some error they had corrected, and it continues to show up and manifest itself in one way or another. So their words stick, and they have a meaning in your life, and they change the trajectory of it. So they're very important.
It's not just knowledge; it's the character. They affect your character. Like I remember, Miss Manal taught me a lot of things about etiquette.
Oh.
It's not just teaching me math, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying she was so influential, because of the life lessons that they give you while they're teaching you, for example, math or history or Arabic or English or whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, it's the life lessons that they give you along the way. To this teacher and all teachers out there, they probably do the same thing. That's why they are recognized on this day, because they're such influential people in every student's lives.
Absolutely. And now more than ever, they're playing a major role here, doing their jobs amid a crisis. And already education systems around the world have been strained. It is no exaggeration to say that the world currently is at crossroads, and teachers have been doing their best right now to guide students towards a rather unusual landscape for education that was brought about by the pandemic. So we also like to honor the contributions that teachers have made, whether through remote learning, supporting more vulnerable groups, spending more special one-on-one sessions with them remotely as well, the reopening of schools and how that had gone as well, and ensuring that learning gaps among different student groups have been mitigated and managed as well. It really goes without saying that they've been pulling in a tremendous effort here in the United Arab Emirates, teachers out here in the country.
Absolutely. His Excellency Hussein bin Ibrahim Al-Hamadi, Minister of Education, affirmed that efforts are focused on achieving an educational renaissance, the basis of which is the teacher who possesses those skills, creativity, and passion for development, and also inspiration for students through achieving a positive impact, in addition to reaching a cognitively and also digitally integrated teacher by enhancing their career through immersion in technology education, and also enabling them to be professional in dealing with that. This came in a statement he made on the occasion of the International Teachers Day, when His Excellency congratulated the masses of teachers throughout the country.
That's right. So here from the Morning Majlis, we wish you all a happy World Teacher Day, and text us at 4215. Let us know what this occasion means to you specifically. Have you had teachers you've grown up with that have inspired you, that continue to impact you to this day whenever you look back and think of who you've become as a person? Let us know. The text lines are open, 4215.
Pulse 95. You're listening to Pulse 95. Pulse 95.
It's Pulse 95.